The State of Crypto is presented by Tron, connecting the world to the power of cryptocurrency.
All right, SOMA Finance is gearing up to offer the first legally issued and compliantly structured digital security to global and U.S. retail investors. Joining us now to discuss is SOMA Finance co-founder and co-CEO, Bill Heyn. Bill, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Jen. Thank you.
All right, let's talk about SOMA Finance. This is a joint venture between MANTRA and Tritaurian Capital. Briefly tell us about how SOMA came to be, what the mission is, and what's going on here.
Sure. So Tritaurian Capital, which is the broker-dealer behind SOMA Finance, which does all the regulated activity, has been around forever. We got involved in the crypto world about 5 or 6 years ago. And at that time, we met the guys from MANTRA. And an event really quickly at the beginning saw that crypto was a huge potential benefit, but also had some serious risks in terms of compliance. Most notably that all of these tokens out there really are securities. So we embarked on a mission. It's been several years to get the proper approvals from the U.S. regulators and to build the proper technology to actually be able to offer a decentralized type of trading platform, but do it legally, compliantly, and within the regulations of the United States.
Bill, what regulators are you working with?
Primarily with FINRA and the SEC. They've been great, both of them. We do a little bit with the states as well, but it's a process, and finance is important and dangerous if you do it wrong. So doing it the right way with FINRA and the SEC is absolutely clear.
Now, are you 100% sure you're allowed to operate? Because my guess is the SEC was probably difficult on this, weren't they? I mean, are you 100% sure? Have you called them up before and said, look, we're about to do this. Are you okay with us doing this? And they said, okay.
So it's an ongoing process. It's multi-stage. It's not a flip the switch and you go. We always speak with the SEC. We always speak with FINRA to make sure that everything we do is compliant as we stage out through this. Those talks are ongoing, and they will continue to go as long as we're operating. It's not a get your pass and forget about them. You talk to them pretty constantly.
That said, they still, I'm still kind of, it almost sounds like that, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission in that response. I just kind of want to get a sense that anybody who's working with you on this, can they be certain that the SEC won't take a measure against you in the process? Because obviously this is a worry. I don't worry right now if I buy stocks on the NYSE, if I buy stocks on NASDAQ, that the SEC won't close down NYSE or NASDAQ anytime soon. But I do know that the SEC's gone after Coinbase, they've gone after Kraken, they've gone after a bunch of people, and they say this is securities, you're not licensed, you're not able to do this. How certain am I that if I'm dealing with SOMA that the SEC has said, okay, you guys can operate?
Sure. So first, the SEC never says you can operate. They just stop saying don't operate, just to be clear. But the reason you can be confident is that we have Tritaurian Capital, which is the broker-dealer. We're licensed, we're approved to do certain business lines. We're getting more as we speak. So to answer your question about are you sure, you can be sure that we will never do anything or enter a business without having done the proper checks with all of the regulators involved. Now, can I predict the future and say the SEC will never worry about anything we ever do? No. But that's the same with New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. If they screw something up, the regulators will come in and do their best to fix it. So you can absolutely rest assured that we will never do it. SOMA or Tritaurian will never do anything that hasn't been properly vetted and checked with the regulators. That's just not the way we operate.
On that note, I think it's probably important to kind of differentiate SOMA from some of the entities that the SEC has gone after. Lawrence just mentioned Coinbase, Binance, Kraken. They also mentioned a handful of tokens in those lawsuits. How is SOMA different than some of the tokens that were mentioned in the lawsuits and also those firms?
So SOMA is different because we built it to be compliant from day one. In addition to being an investment banker, I'm also a compliance officer. So we built this system exactly as I'd like to see it as a compliance officer. So one of those things is we never sat down and said, how do we try and make the SOMA token not a security? It just is a security, and it's been a security since day one. So we go into the Reg CF offering. I'm required to say things like, as I said here, I'm not soliciting or offering to buy tokens or sell tokens. They'll only be sold after we make a proper filing with the SEC and so on. And so that's the real difference. You're never going to see SOMA or Tritaurian coming out and saying, this is why this isn't a security. These just are securities. The SOMA token will be a non-cumulative participating preferred stock of SOMA Finance company.
So you have to file an S1. You have to how does this work? You file 10Ks, 10Qs. What are you filing here on a regular basis?
So for Reg CF, which is Reg crowdfunding, we will file Form C, which is a little bit different than an S1. An S1 is filing on the New York Stock Exchange for a public IPO. Form C is sort of a mixture in between an S1 and, say, a Reg D filing. It's got a good bit of information in it. It will have reviewed financials, which are critical. But most importantly, we won't start this offering until that is filed, which is part of the rule. And doing it the proper way is how we keep ourselves out of trouble.
The SEC told you guys to file it that way, or are you guys taking a shot with it?
Just the rule. The rules are pretty clear. If you want to do a regulation crowdfunding offering, you have to take steps A, B, and C and get to the end. And, obviously we're not making this up. We're following the laws and rules, and they're written in ways that, to a layperson seem confusing. But once you actually read them, they're pretty clear. Take steps A, then take step B, and get through the process.
Given the fact that you found the process to be clear, if you take your time and read the information that's out there, why do you think it's been so difficult for many in the industry who've been so outspoken about how difficult it is to navigate the regulatory space? Why do you think that's been so difficult? It sounds like it's been a pretty smooth process for you.
Smooth might be a bit of an overstatement. The difference is it's not hard. It is hard. It's difficult. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to make things the right way. And these are all in place to protect investors. So, for example, getting our financials reviewed, it wasn't hard, but it took time and effort and money. But the reason you do that is so that when investors see these financials, they know that an auditing firm has reviewed them. So I don't like to speak about others and what they've done or haven't done. But I would say that people are confusing unclear with difficult. And just because something's difficult doesn't mean it isn't clear.
Do you think that the rest of the crypto industry is perhaps incorrect in saying that there needs to be regulatory clarity? Do you feel that there is regulatory clarity from the SEC?
I do. In the space that we're playing in, we are playing in securities that just happen to be represented by blockchain tokens, and the regulations on securities are very clear. You start in 1933 and move. Could there be some clarity around some of the fringe assets that are in between securities and commodities? Possibly. But really, the truth is that most of these regulations are in place. They've been in place for quite some time. And again, I think, unfortunately, sometimes people confuse difficult with unclear and say, well, it's not easy to file these properly, but you have to file them properly, or else they're not in compliance with the regulations.
Bill, before we go, tell us about the token. I know there are some token holder benefits here. Once the token is launched, what can people expect? What are the benefits for token holders?
So again, we're not launching it yet. We will. So we're not soliciting anything today, and please don't send any money yet. So we'll file the Reg C. Once we do that, we'll launch the offering. It will all be done through the SOMA platform, which is a technology platform, effectively. But as I said earlier, the tokens will actually represent non-cumulative participating preferred stock in SOMA Finance. They are a real financial instrument of the company, which is very, very different than most crypto tokens out there. So there are certain rights. There are shareholder rights that are encased in a document. That document lays out certain parameters, one of which is token holders will have the right to receive up to 10% in preferred dividends. as declared by the board of directors. But that's the upside. The downside is that this is not something that just disappears. It's a financial instrument of the company. So unlike many crypto tokens, we can't just walk away from this one. Not that we ever did. This is a true financial instrument of the company. And so the benefits would be effectively sharing in the upside of SOMA Finance, just like if you bought a preferred stock in one of the big companies listed in the New York Stock.
All right, Bill, thank you very much for joining the show this morning. We hope you have a great Friday and a great weekend.
Too. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Lawrence. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Thanks.
That was SOMA Finance co-CEO Bill Heyn.